Okay. All right. Where did we leave? Okay, right there. One day, Gaby ran into a long mink trail on the Willow Ridge what were in Wings to Adventure, and it is the Lost in the Marshlands story. We'll pick up where we left off. The paw marks were of different sizes. Gaby became greatly excited. Mink, more than one. Yeah, here was a find indeed. Here indeed was a find. Mink, as a rule, traveled alone. A group running along the same trail was unusual. What a catch, cried Gaby. He followed the run. It led him into a tract of old, rotting willow stumps, and finally off the ridge and down into the marsh. Gaby set 4 traps along the trail. The next morning, Gaby went first to look at his traps along the bayou. This took him better part of the day. When he got home, the sun was already setting. Gaby threw his catch into the shed, then headed for the 4 traps on the mink trail. The nearest one was in a thick clump of grass. It would take about 5 minutes of fast walking to reach it. The wind had swung to the north early in the morning and had stayed that way all the day long. Toward evening, however, it had stiffened and changed to the south off the gulf. Almost at once, fog began to form. By sundown, it was fast covering the whole delta. Gaby had just looked at his last mink trap and had taken out a mink. He looked up, and as if at the wave of a magic wand, he found himself enclosed in a thick veil of mist. Wow, he cried aloud, some fog. I better get home, before it's night. He swung around and started walking hurriedly. Camp could not be far away. Gaby did not realize he was lost until he was passing something that seemed very familiar. He stopped before it with a shock. He felt his heart sinking. Was he passing the same trap twice? He stooped down to make sure. Yes, this was his last mink set. Gaby caught his breath. He had been walking in a circle. He straightened, his eyes widened, trying to pierce the gray world that lay about him. 10 feet away, that world ended. A slow fear began to take hold of Gaby. Gaby remembered all the terrible tales he had heard from the lips of natives about being lost in the wide delta marshes. Men had walked about aimlessly, crying aloud for help as they wandered around in circles, maddened by torment, mosquitoes, and thirst. Thirst, with the brown, salty, sickly marsh water mocking them every inch of the way. Gaby's fear suddenly became a terror. Lost in the marshland, this was a terrible word. Gaby started to walk very fast. He walked for 100 yards and then stopped with a jerk. Where was he going anyway? In what direction did camp lie? He felt the wind throbbing. He felt the wild throbbing of his heart. His breath came fast. Once more he struck out wildly in another direction. Or was it the same one? Had he turned? Gaby did not know. There were no landmarks to show him. All was mist. It was a world of mist, and he was in the center of it. Gaby stumbled. He fell hip deep into old muskrat holes as he splashed madly through the thick blue-black ooze and endless gray fog. Fright became a living thing. Help, he shouted wildly. Paw, help! His throat felt dry, and it hurt. Gaby fell, rose, fell again. His sack began to feel like a hundredweight. He dropped it, picked it up. He struggled blindly ahead through the damp, gray fog. Mud-covered, wet to the skin, he kept going, but where? We'll pause there. I love you, and I'm very proud of you. You keep an eye on each other. And say your prayers, and read your Bible. Good night, sweet dreams.